For a high-resolution display smartphone and best sound quality phone, choose Moto G72. Motorola's European landing page reads, while in India, you would be getting one for all the colors of your life. Indeed, one of the Moto G72's key selling points is its display, which is a 6.6-inch 120Hz OLED with support for 1 billion colors and is 1080p, hence the high resolution. In terms of audio, you get stereo speakers, a headphone jack, and an FM radio, so there's potential there as well. There is one standout number on the spec sheet, and that is the weight. At just 166 grams, the Moto G72 is remarkably light, even with a 5000 mAh battery. Motorola claims over 2 days of battery life, and we can see that happening, especially with the relatively unassuming Mediatek Helio G99 chipset, which lacks 5G capability. In terms of cameras, we're looking at a 2+1 rear setup with a 108-megapixel headliner, an 8-megapixel ultrawide and a 2-megapixel macro, and a 16-megapixel punch-hole unit for selfies, a solid mid-range configuration by the looks of it. What you won't get is 4K video recording, but that's become the new normal in these low-cost devices. The Moto G72's physical properties are most notable for their light weight. It's one of the more pocketable handsets available, weighing just 166 grams despite being a 6.6-inch device with a 5000 mAh battery inside. Yes, the dimensions reflect the size of those components, and both the footprint and thickness are standard for the class. However, the curved rear edges effectively hide the thickness, and the disparity between the low weight and what's essentially average size makes the G72 feel even lighter. Of course, it's not magic that they've done it. The Moto G72 is constructed primarily of plastic, so you won't be in contact with premium materials. Both the rear panel and the frame are made of plastic. While that does not sound posh, it should be durable and light. Motorola likes to label most of its phones as splash resistant, and the Moto G72 is no exception. The spec sheet includes a formal IP52 rating, so there is some standardization behind those words. The buttons are on the right, with the volume rocker above the power button. Their placement is excellent, they are easy to reach with either hand. We could quibble about the G72's fingerprint reader placement. The optical underdisplay sensor is a little too low for our liking, but because the phone is so light, using it doesn't endanger the phone's life. We found the actual recognition procedure to be uneventful, it does the job, no problems. It's worth noting that the ostensibly more expensive Moto G82 has a side-mounted capacitive fingerprint sensor, whereas the less expensive G72 has an underdisplay one. You might prefer the old-school solution, and that's fine. However, we appreciate the G72's more modern approach. The tour of the periphery does have some nostalgic elements. A headphone jack is located on the bottom, and the card tray on the left allows you to exchange the second SIM for a microSD card. Overall, the Moto G72's design is more akin to a mid-range phone than an impressive one. It's far from ugly, and, more importantly, it has an air of compactness about it. The Moto G72 has a 6.6-inch OLED display with a resolution of 1080 by 2400 pixel in a 20:9 aspect ratio and a pixel density of 402 ppi. It supports a refresh rate of 120 Hz, no half-baked 90 Hz solutions here. It's also quite bright, possibly the brightest in its class. With the adaptive brightness toggle enabled and the phone placed in bright ambient light, we measured 1015 nits. Other OLEDs for the money typically hover around the 700 nits mark. The 501 nits we manually obtained on the slider are roughly the standard value. There are 3 refresh rate options available in the menu: 60 Hz, 120 Hz, and Auto. Both fixed refresh rate modes provide just that, hard settings that the phone will always respect. In 120 Hz mode, you'll get the highest refresh rate in browsers, video playing apps, games, and everything else. When you look at the Moto G72, it's difficult to believe it has a 5000 mAh battery inside. But it does, as evidenced by its endurance numbers. We used this Moto for 43 hours on a voice call, making it an excellent choice for those who still spend a lot of time talking on their phones. It's also pretty impressive with the display turned on, with 14+ hours of web browsing and over 19 hours of looping videos rounding out a very compelling showing in active use. The Moto G72 comes standard with a 33-watt turbo power adapter. According to the numbers printed on it, it is not USB power delivery compliant, and its USB-A port indicates that it will not be as versatile as you would like. Still, it does a respectable job of charging the Moto itself. The Moto was showing 53% half an hour into a charge from flat, and it took 74 minutes to charge all the way to 100%. Allow another 17 minutes for the phone to actually reach a charged state, though, a bit longer than average. In both the 30-minute and 100% metrics, the G72 is roughly in line with the class average. It's comparable to the G82 and noticeably better than the G62, but the Edge 30 Neo is significantly faster. The Moto G62 runs Android 12, so it's not particularly up-to-date in terms of the operating system. We did receive a couple of minor updates on our review unit in the last few weeks, so while Motorola is a little behind schedule with OS releases, ongoing support isn't lacking. As is customary with Motorola handsets, you'd get a mostly stock UI with a few in-house tweaks and some long-standing proprietary features. The interface and overall appearance are similar to stock Android. This includes the large pill-shaped quick toggles in the notification shade, as well as the lack of an auto brightness toggle. Google keeps it in the display settings, and Motorola follows suit. The recent apps menu, which displays apps in a carousel fashion, and the app drawer remain unchanged. Motorola has, as is customary, included a slew of useful extras. They are all stored in a Moto Settings app, which organizes them into categories. The first is personalization, which lets you play around with fonts, app icon layout, accent colors, icon shape, and themes. One thing that's difficult to quantify is the Moto G72's scaling, which is smaller by default, in a good way, if that makes sense. You can, of course, change it to your liking in either direction, but the default appeals to this particular reviewer. The Helio G99 chipset, a no-frills Mediatek chipset with no 5G connectivity, powers the Moto G72. It's built on a 6nm process for efficiency, but its octa-core CPU is still quite capable thanks to a couple of Cortex A76 cores clocked at up to 2.2 GHz. The graphics processor is a Mali G57MC2. There appears to be only one storage option, with 128 GB easily expandable via microSD, though you'd have to give up the second SIM too. RAM is available in 6 GB or 8 GB capacities. In terms of single-core CPU performance, the Moto G72 is on par with the G62, but lags behind the G82. Other SD695 handsets outperform the Moto, with the Exynos 1280 Galaxy A53 5G and A33 5G even further ahead. The gaps are narrower in multi-core testing, though the G72 remains in the bottom half of the rankings. On the back of the Moto G72 is a reasonably well-spec'd triple-camera setup. It features a 108-megapixel main sensor, an 8-megapixel ultrawide sensor, and a 2-megapixel dedicated macro for good measure. A 16-megapixel camera on the front handles selfies. The primary camera is equipped with a Samsung HM6 sensor. The universal camera employs a modest 8-megapixel sensor. The macro camera is built around the OmniVision OV02B10 sensor with a 2-megapixel resolution. Despite the relatively stock-looking software package, the Moto G72's camera app is unique. The fundamentals remain the same. The camera modes are arranged in a customizable carousel formation. The More tab at the right end of the carousel contains the less frequently used shooting modes. The Moto G72 makes an enticing case for itself. It has a display that would be at home on a phone twice its price, it has plenty of battery life, charges quickly, and takes good pictures for its class. The audio package, as well as the lightweight body, is a strong selling point. And Motorola's software package, which combines a Pixel look with additional in-house features, is appealing. The dated OS version is less exciting, and the planned Android 13 update can't come soon enough. However, it does not support 4K video recording or 5G connectivity, so if those features are important to you, the Moto G72 is a no-go. If you don't care about video capture and can live without next-generation connectivity, this Moto has a lot going for it.